For as long as I can remember, I've been stuck in this forgotten corner of West Virginia. Life was always a struggle. My foster parents never much cared for me. They wouldn't even let me go to school when I was old enough. It took 2 years of pressure from the town before they finally let me set foot in a classroom. That all changed 3 years ago when a flash flood triggered a mudslide that swept them away. I was living in a dorm at the school, which is the only reason I'm still alive. But things got even harder after that. I figured I'd be stuck in that mire forever, but it seems like fate finally decided to cut me a break. I was just heading out the door for my dishwashing shift at the diner when a police cruiser pulled up in front of my run-down apartment building. Tailing it was a sleek black Escalade. The doors opened and a middle-aged couple stepped out. I stared at the man's face and my heart gave a violent lurch. A state trooper walked over holding a file. "Are you J.D. Vance?" I nodded, and what followed was a scene straight out of a daytime TV show. My new father had his driver hand thick envelopes of cash to the neighbors who'd helped me out over the years. After a round of quick goodbyes, I sank into the plush leather seats of the luxury SUV. "Your name was Ethan Donovan," my father started to explain as the car pulled away. "Back then, we were just starting out. Your mother and I were working around the clock to get the business off the ground. So, we left you with your sister. She's 6 years older than you, but she was only 9 at the time. She got distracted playing. And all these years," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "we never ever stopped looking for you. So, my name is Ethan Donovan, and I had a sister." "What's the family?" I started to ask, unsure of how to even phrase the question. "Your sister is Chloe Donovan, the actress," my mother jumped in, her eyes shining. "She's filming in Europe right now. When we told her we'd found you, she broke down crying and said she wanted to stop production and fly back immediately. The earliest she can get here is probably tomorrow." She added, "You also have a cousin living with us. He's a month younger than you." A cousin. A knot of dread tightened in my gut. Just the other day at the diner, I'd overheard the other kitchen staff gossiping about one of those trashy reality dramas. The one where a rich family finds their long-lost son, but only because their sick adopted kid needs a kidney transplant. I subconsciously touched my side. My real parents couldn't be that twisted, could they? My father, oblivious to my sudden fear, just sighed. "Your aunt and her husband died a long time ago. A drone driver. Your cousin was only 6 with no one to look after him. So your mother and I took him in, and he took her last name. His name is Caleb." I leaned back against the headrest, my mind racing. An adopted cousin, the real heir versus the replacement. This whole situation had a bad smell to it. If this Caleb guy was decent, then fine. But if he was like one of those characters from the web novels, the kind who's stolen my life and now wants to make my existence a living hell. I ground my back teeth together. I'm not one of those spineless protagonists who just turns and walks away. What's mine is mine, and I'll be damned if I let anyone push me around or make me feel worthless ever again. In the span of a single day, I rode in a luxury car for the first time, flew on a private jet for the first time, and now was about to live in a mansion for the first time. When the Escalade pulled up the long, winding driveway, my jaw hit the floor. It was a sprawling stone mansion, the kind I'd only ever seen in the pages of Architectural Digest. A massive fountain in the circular driveway shot plumes of water into the air, shimmering with rainbow colors under the landscape lighting. "Ethan, this is our home." My mother squeezed my hand, her voice filled with hope. As we reached the grand front entrance, a handsome young man in his early 20s was waiting for us. He was dressed in a tailored button-down and slacks with a pair of thin-framed glasses that made him look sharp and intellectual. The second he saw us, his eyes went red. He hurried over, gave my parents a respectful nod, and then turned to me. "Ethan," he started, his voice cracking. "It's so good to finally meet you. Welcome home. I'm Caleb, your cousin." He sounded like he was about to cry. "I heard about everything you went through. It's a miracle you're finally home where you belong." Before I could say anything, he turned back to my parents, his eyes welling up even more. "I'm so happy for you both for finally finding him." With that, he picked up a suitcase that was sitting by his feet. "Now that Ethan is back, it's not right for me to keep taking up his space. The life I've had, the privileges I've enjoyed, it should have all been his. I'll leave now." He wiped a tear from his eye. "Please take care of yourselves. And thank you for everything you've done for me all these years." I watched his little performance, this whole song and dance of him pretending to leave, and I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. Here we go, I thought. What a two-faced snake. You want to play the victim? I can do that too. As he turned to make his dramatic exit, I secretly dug my nails into my own thigh. The sharp, searing pain brought tears to my eyes instantly. "Wait." My voice came out as a choked whisper, trembling even more than his hat. "Don't go." Caleb turned back, a flash of genuine surprise in his eyes. I wiped my face, letting the tears fall freely. I shouldn't have come back. The minute I show up, I'm already tearing this family apart. How could I do that to my own parents? I looked at my mom and dad. My head hung low in shame. I spent my whole life in a small town. I barely finished high school. How am I supposed to compare to Caleb, who's had the best education money can buy? If I stay here, I'll just be an embarrassment to you. Maybe it's better if I just leave before I cause any more trouble. I grabbed my own worn-out canvas duffel bag and turned towards the door. What is this nonsense? My father grabbed my arm, his grip firm. "You are my son. Even if you don't know a thing about this world, that's our fault. We have so much to make up for." My mother rushed to my other side. "Ethan, don't even think that. We feel nothing but love and guilt for what you've been through. We could never ever be ashamed of you." I stuck a peek over my shoulder. Caleb's face was frozen, a mask of disbelief. My father turned and glared at him. "Caleb, stop this foolishness. Do you really think we can't afford to raise two sons? You will always have a place here, but don't say things that will make your cousin feel unwelcome." My mother's tone was also tinged with annoyance. "You know you've lived a life of comfort for over a decade while he suffered. The least you could do is be generous and mature about this, not throw a childish tantrum." For a split second, Caleb's expression twisted into a snarl. He gripped the handle of his suitcase, his knuckles turning white before finally lowering his head. "I understand, Uncle, Auntie." I saw him bite his lower lip as he looked down, and I knew exactly what was going on. Caleb's little gambit of pretending to leave was so transparent, my parents saw right through it. Their words weren't just comforting me. They were a clear warning to him. Good. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. It turns out real-life parents aren't like the clueless idiots in those web novel dramas, easily fooled by a few crocodile tears. But I glanced at Caleb. It seemed my new cousin was the one with a few screws loose. The days ahead weren't going to be quiet. Fine by me. The hell I've been through wasn't for nothing. If anyone wants to screw with me, they'd better think long and hard about whether they're up for the fight. The atmosphere at the dinner table was a little strange. Caleb kept putting food on my plate, a look of utter sincerity plastered on his face. I ignored him, not touching a single thing he'd served me. I just kept my head down and shoveled food into my mouth, knowing damn well he was already plotting his next move. Sure enough, the moment we finished eating, Caleb stood up. "I'm heading upstairs, Ethan. You should get some rest too." I just grunted in response. I waited until he was halfway up the grand staircase before I slowly got up to follow. As I reached the landing, I saw him standing there, his back to me, waiting around the corner. My stomach dropped. I stopped in my tracks. He spun around, his glasses slipping down his nose. The polite, scholarly look from earlier was gone, replaced by a venomous hatred that felt like it was laced with poison. "Why did you have to come back?" I didn't say a word, just waited for him to continue. "I heard your foster parents died in a mudslide." He took 2 steps closer, his voice a low, menacing hiss. "Why didn't you die with them? Why do you have to come back and try to take what's mine? How can you be so selfish?" His words were so twisted, I almost laughed. My entire sense of morality felt like it was being ground into the dirt. "Are you mentally ill?" I asked, staring him down. "I'm their son. If anyone's the imposter who stole someone else's life, it's you. This is my home. I've lived here for 16 years. I swear I can make everyone in this family despise you. I can make them throw you out like a dog." My internal alarm bells were screaming. Here it was. The real performance was about to begin. He leaned in closer, a cruel smirk on his face. Who do you think they'll believe? Me, the son they've raised for over a decade, or you, the uneducated hick who just crawled out of the backwoods? Before I could react, he suddenly swung his elbow back, slamming it into a large ceramic vase sitting on a pedestal at the corner of the landing. It crashed to the marble floor with a deafening shatter, sending shards flying everywhere. "Ah!" he screamed, stumbling backward and conveniently falling right onto a pile of the broken pieces. What was that? What's going on? I heard my parents' voices from downstairs, followed by the sound of their hurried footsteps. I looked up to see them halfway up the stairs, their eyes fixed on a shattered vase and Caleb's hand, which was now bleeding from a fresh cut. Caleb's eyes immediately filled with tears. His voice trembled as he looked fearfully from them to me. "I'm so sorry, Uncle Annie. It was my fault. I was talking to Ethan and I said the wrong thing. I upset him. He didn't mean to do it. Please don't be angry with him." I just stood there watching his pathetic backstabbing performance. It was almost funny. My mother came up the rest of the way, looking at the mess and then at me. "Ethan, what happened here?" Caleb kept the act going. "It was really my fault. I wasn't standing properly." I rolled my eyes, too tired to play along with his soap opera. "I didn't break the vase." I glanced at the shards on the floor, my voice flat. "Of course, I don't have any proof. You can believe me or not." I looked them straight in the eye. "I suggest you install some security cameras around the house. It would prevent this kind of he said, she said in the future." My father was silent for a moment, then he put a hand on my shoulder. "We believe you, Ethan. We know you wouldn't deliberately cause trouble." My mother nodded in agreement. They both turned to look at Caleb, their expressions hardening. "Caleb, is there some misunderstanding between you and your cousin? If you have something to say, say it. Don't resort to this kind of drama." The color drained from Caleb's face. His bleeding hand clenched into a fist, and he couldn't hide the bitter resentment in his eyes. He bit his lip and looked down. No misunderstanding. I guess the vase wasn't placed securely. It must have fallen on its own just as Ethan was walking by. I must have seen it wrong. He looked up at me, his voice barely a whisper. "Ethan, I'm sorry." I jumped to conclusions. "Please don't be mad at me. Can you forgive me?" I let out a short, sharp laugh and said nothing. His story was falling apart, and that was the best excuse he could come up with. Who did he think he was fooling? My parents exchanged a look, not saying another word. They just asked one of the housekeepers to clean up the mess. They didn't believe his ridiculous story for a second. They were just trying to save him some face. You don't build a billion-dollar empire by being unable to see through a teenager's clumsy theatrics. Clearly, my dear cousin hadn't counted on the fact that the parents who had raised him for 16 years weren't about to blindly take his side. I glanced at Caleb's lowered head and smirked. "I've seen every kind of trick and every dirty trick in the book. My backbone is made of steel. You want to make me suffer? Not a chance in hell." The next day was a blur of bureaucracy. I spent the entire day with my father getting my legal name changed, applying for a new social security number, the whole 9 yards. It was exhausting. In the car, my father mentioned that Caleb had left early that morning to meet with Audrey Reed, the daughter of the Reed family. "The Reeds are old business partners," he explained. "Walter Reed thought it would be a good idea for the two of them to spend some time together. If they hit it off, we could merge the two dynasties." I kept my face straight. Audrey Reed. The name sounded like something out of an old Hollywood movie. All class and sophistication. I had to shake my head. Those damn web novels were rotting my brain, making me slap labels on people I'd never even met. We got home late that afternoon, and just as we walked in, I heard the sound of a rolling suitcase behind us. I turned to see a woman in a stylish beige trench coat and dark sunglasses striding in. The moment she took off the glasses, her eyes were red. "Ethan," she said. Her voice trembled. She rushed over and threw her arms around me, her tears soaking my shoulder. "I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I should have been watching you." I'm so sorry you had to suffer so much. I stood there frozen, not knowing where to put my hands. This had to be my sister, the famous actress Chloe Donovan. On screen, she was this untouchable, glamorous star. But right now, she was just my sister holding me and crying. "It's okay," I said, patting her back awkwardly and gently creating some space between us. "You're just a kid, too. It wasn't your fault. The people to blame are the ones who took me." She wiped her tears and managed a small smile. "You're pretty good at this whole comforting thing, aren't you?" Just then, I felt a hateful glare coming from the top of the stairs. I didn't have to look to know who it was. I was surprised he was back so soon from his date with Audrey. When Caleb saw that I'd noticed him, he plastered on a fake smile and came down. "Chloe, you're back. I thought you were still filming in Europe." My sister's face hardened. My little brother, who's been missing for 16 years, was just found. "Don't you think it's reasonable that I couldn't wait another second?" I took the first red-eye I could get. I could practically see the cracks forming in Caleb's friendly, harmless mask. "Keep it up," I thought. "Let's see how long you can keep this act going." The more he schemed, the faster he'd crash and burn, especially with a family that actually had their heads on straight. The following evening, the Donovans hosted a small reception at one of their downtown hotels. My father stood with me in the center of the ballroom. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my son, Ethan. After 16 long years, he's finally home." The room erupted in applause and congratulations. People were patting me on the back, telling me I had my father's eyes. I wasn't used to this kind of attention, so I just stood there with a stiff smile plastered on my face. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Caleb across the room, champagne flute in hand, chatting amiably with some guests. He looked perfectly composed, but when his eyes met mine, I saw a flash of pure venom that he quickly masked. I just smiled to myself, not letting it show. Just then, my father pulled me over to another table. "Ethan, this is Walter Reed, one of my oldest friends." He then gestured to the girl beside him. "And this is his daughter, Audrey." I finally got a good look at her. She was tall and elegant in a pale blue dress, her hair styled perfectly. When she smiled, she had 2 faint dimples. She was beautiful, but in a clean, classic way. Nothing like the fatal I had pictured. "Mr. Reed, Miss Reed, a pleasure," I said, keeping it formal. Walter Reed smiled warmly. "It's good to have you back, son. Your father has moved heaven and earth looking for you." Audrey offered a polite smile of her own. "It's nice to meet you, Ethan." After a few minutes of small talk, I excused myself. Just 2 days ago, I was scrubbing pans in a diner, trying to figure out how I'd afford dinner. Now, I was standing in a glittering ballroom, listening to conversations about stock portfolios and mergers. I was completely out of my element. My sister Chloe found me a few minutes later and handed me a glass of juice. "A little overwhelming, isn't it? Don't worry, you'll get used to it. I'll teach you." I took the glass, and the genuine warmth in her eyes made me feel a little less like an alien. Later in the evening, I went to the men's room. I had just washed my hands and was drying them when I turned to find Caleb blocking the doorway, his arms crossed, his eyes dark and menacing. "Feeling pretty proud of yourself?" he hissed, his voice low and tight. "The whole family is wrapped around your little finger. You think you've won?" He took a step closer, the jealousy practically dripping from him. I was by their side for 16 years. Whenever Chloe came home, I was the first person she asked about. "Why do you get to come back and steal everything from me?" I was done playing games with him. I didn't even look up. "Because I'm their son. Is that reason enough for you?" His face contorted in a mask of rage, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "I can let the other things slide, but if you dare to even think about Audrey, I swear to God, I will kill you." His logic was so warped, I could only frown. "Dude, are you insane? I've said exactly 2 sentences to her tonight. Basically, hello and goodbye." I looked him up and down. "You might be a little paranoid." "Don't play dumb," he suddenly shouted, his eyes full of poison. "Those old bastards are probably already thinking about setting you up with her instead of me. And don't think I didn't see you looking at her. Do you think I'm blind?" I was completely speechless. This guy was certifiable. Think whatever you want. I tried to step around him. All I care about right now is getting through college. I couldn't give less of a damn about your romantic drama. If you're smart, you'll stay out of my way and we can at least pretend to be civil. As the words left my mouth, his entire demeanor changed. The menacing rage vanished, replaced by a look of pure terror. His voice started shaking violently. Ethan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I won't fight you for anything. I swear. Please, just leave me alone. My stomach lurched. Before I could process what was happening, he slapped himself hard across the left cheek. The sound echoed in the marble restroom. A bright red handprint instantly appeared on his skin. Then he grabbed a heavy-duty mop from the corner and, to my utter shock, slammed the handle into his own forehead. There was a sickening thud and blood immediately started to trickle down his face, dripping onto his crisp white shirt. I was so stunned I couldn't move. He actually did it. Arkansas! He screamed, stumbling dramatically out of the restroom. I ran out after him, but by the time I got to the corridor, the party had already devolved into chaos. Caleb, my God, you're bleeding. It was my parents and sister. When I reached them, Caleb was clutching his head, sobbing. Dad, Mom, Chloe. Ethan didn't do anything. I just fell in a restroom. It has nothing to do with him. Audrey was standing nearby, her face pale, her eyes wide with horror at the sight of Caleb's injury. My father's brow was deeply furrowed as his questioning gaze fell on me. Chloe stepped in front of me, her expression icy. Caleb, why don't you try telling the truth for once? Can you stop being so damn vague and manipulative? My mother looked from a weeping Caleb back to me. Ethan, you tell us what happened. I just shrugged. I didn't touch him. Believe it or not, it's up to you. The air in the hallway grew thick with tension. Caleb was still crying, and Audrey was looking at me with a thoughtful, confused expression on her face. My father took a deep breath and addressed the remaining guests. Everyone, I apologize for the disruption this evening. Please forgive our family matter. We will make it up to you all. That was the cue for everyone to leave. Soon, the only people left were our family and the Reeds. The hotel's on-call doctor had already bandaged Caleb's forehead. He sat on a sofa, half his face still red and swollen. My father sat opposite him, his face as dark as a thundercloud. Now that everyone is gone, talk. What really happened? Before I could speak, Caleb launched into his story, the tears flowing freely. Dad, I want to talk to Ethan. I wanted to tell him that this home, the inheritance, all of it is his. I won't fight him for any of it. He choked on a sob. But I truly love Audrey. I just wanted to ask him if he could please. He looked at me pleadingly. But he said everything I have should have been his. He said, an adopted nobody like me didn't deserve someone like Audrey. And then I slapped you and smashed your head with a mop. I finished for him, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Caleb flinched and lowered his head. I know you hate me for taking her place, but Audrey is the one thing I really love. I didn't say another word. I just looked at my parents and my sister, waiting for their reaction. Chloe was the first to break, letting out a sharp, derisive laugh. Caleb, in my new movie, I play the villain's manipulative best friend who tries to break up the main couple. We filmed a scene almost exactly like this just last week. She shot a withering glare at Caleb, whose face was rapidly losing color. Honestly, I feel like you're insulting my intelligence, trying to outact me in my own house. It's embarrassing. My mother's eyes filled with disappointment. This is the second time, Caleb. The vase the other night. Your father and I knew what was going on. We kept quiet because we thought you were just having a hard time adjusting. We were giving you the benefit of the doubt. But this is too far. Caleb panicked, grabbing my mother's arm. Mom, no, it's not like that. You've known me my whole life. I was just... We thought we knew you, my father interrupted, his voice heavy with fatigue. It appears we were wrong. Caleb turned to Audrey, grabbing her hand desperately. Audrey, you have to believe me. We've been seeing each other for a while. You know I would never... Audrey slowly pulled her hand away. She opened her purse, took out a small compact mirror, and held it up to his face. Caleb, you said Ethan hit your left cheek. Look at the mirror. The handprint is upside down. That only happens when you hit yourself. All the blood drained from Caleb's face. I smirked, twisting the knife. And you said I hit you with a mop. Then my fingerprints should be all over it. If you want to be sure, we can have a handle dusted for prints. That should clear things up pretty quickly. Caleb's eyes rolled back as if he was about to faint. But Chloe's sharp voice cut through the air. Don't even think about fainting. That trick only works in those garbage web dramas. No sane person thinks passing out solves their problems. Caleb, who had started to slump over, straightened up abruptly. Then he collapsed to his knees on the floor, a mess of tears and snot. I'm sorry, Dad. Mom. Chloe. Audrey. I was just so scared. I was afraid you would all leave me for him, that I would end up with nothing. It was a moment of weakness. Audrey picked up her purse and stood to leave. Caleb, you have disappointed me more than I can say. The man I want to be with is not a petty, manipulative coward. Walter Reed shook his head. Donovan, let's put the talk of a merger on hold. I don't think Caleb is the right fit for our Audrey. No, Mr. Reed. Caleb scrambled towards him, but a security guard blocked his path. I really do love Audrey. Please, just give me one more chance. My father waved his hand in disgust. Get him out of my sight. The guards grabbed Caleb, who was now screaming and struggling, and dragged him away. My father turned to the Reeds, his face etched with shame. Walter, I am so sorry. That boy is a disgrace. We will discuss the business alliance at a later date. After we sent the Reeds off and returned to the mansion, my father lost his temper for the first time. He slapped Caleb hard across his already swollen face. You embarrassing piece of trash, he roared, pointing at the door. Get out. Go to your birth parents' old house and stay there for a month. And you'd better do some serious thinking about the person you've become. Caleb looked desperately at my mother and sister, but they both turned away, refusing to intervene. I stood to the side, watching as the guards dragged him away. His eyes fixed on me were filled with a poisonous hatred. I felt nothing. It just goes to show you he dug his own grave. He could have had a life of ease and comfort, but he had to throw it all away on petty jealousy. One idiot. Still, a small part of me wondered why my parents didn't kick him out for good. Just sending him away for a month seemed incredibly lenient after everything he'd done. The next day, I caught my sister in a good mood and decided to ask, Chloe, don't you think Mom and Dad are being a little too soft on Caleb? She was in the middle of serving me some breakfast, and her hand paused. She sighed. There's some history there, Ethan. When Mom was in high school, she had leukemia. The only person whose bone marrow was a perfect match was her younger sister, Caleb's mother. After my aunt and uncle died in that car crash, Mom and Dad felt responsible for Caleb. They felt like they owed his mother a debt they could never repay. So, they poured all of that gratitude and guilt into raising him. Even now, after what he's done, they can't bring themselves to completely cut him off. It all clicked into place, but a sense of unease settled in my stomach. That kind of love tangled up with guilt was a dangerous thing. I had a feeling Caleb wasn't going to just sit quietly and reflect on his sins. Things were calm for a few days. Chloe had to fly back to Europe to finish her film, and Caleb was supposedly atoning at the old house. I almost let my guard down, but then the other shoe dropped. I was on my way home from class when I got a frantic call from my father. Ethan, get to the university hospital right now. There's been an incident. When I got there, the emergency room hallway was buzzing with activity. Audrey was sitting on a bench, her face as white as a sheet. My mother saw me and rushed over. Ethan, on her way home from campus, two guys on a motorcycle forced Audrey's car off the road. Her driver was knocked unconscious, and they tried to drag her out of the car. She gestured towards a hospital room. Caleb was driving by and saw what was happening. He jumped in and fought them off to save her. They stabbed him several times before running away. I didn't go into the room. Audrey told me it looked like a lot of blood, but thankfully the wounds weren't deep and had missed any major organs. He wasn't in any danger. He'd just need a couple of weeks to recover. Did they catch the guys who did it? I asked my father. His face was grim. They're gone. It was a professional job. They were on an international flight before the police could even lock down the airports. I frowned. Something about this whole story felt wrong. This heroic rescue had completely changed Audrey's opinion of Caleb. But the timing was just a little too perfect. Nothing happens, and then suddenly, right when he's been cast out and the marriage alliance is off the table, he just happens to be in the right place at the right time to save the day. I stood outside the hospital room, looking through the glass window. Caleb was lying in bed, pale and weak, giving Audrey a fragile smile. But I could see the triumphant glint in his eyes that he couldn't quite hide. I turned and walked away, a cold smile on my face. It was clear his little timeout hadn't taught him a thing. It had just given him time to come up with a more elaborate, dangerous scheme. But did he really think this act would hold up? Even I could see the holes in it. My parents were just panicked and worried right now. Once the dust settled, they'd start asking the same questions I was. 2 weeks later, Caleb was discharged and moved back into the mansion. He wore a mask of convincing frailty, even offering me a small, deliberate smile, as if our previous conflicts had never happened. I ignored him. This quiet was just the calm before another storm. Only this time, I wasn't going to wait for him to make the first move. The following weekend, Caleb took Audrey out on a date. Dinner, a movie, the whole perfect boyfriend routine. By the time the movie let out, it was almost 10 at night. Caleb led Audrey to the underground parking garage. Just as they reached his car, 3 men in ski masks, brandishing knives, jumped out from behind a concrete pillar. Audrey barely had time to scream before one of them clamped a cloth soaked in chloroform over her mouth. She went limp in seconds. Caleb tried to fight back, but the other 2 men easily overpowered him, holding him down while the third knocked him out with the same chloroformed rag. When he woke up, he was tied to a cold steel pillar, his hands and feet bound tight. Tied to the pillar next to him was Audrey, still unconscious. It was a windowless room lit by a single harsh fluorescent bulb. In the corner, a security camera was pointed directly at them. "Well, look who's awake," a distorted voice crackled from a speaker near the camera. It was electronically altered, impossible to identify as male or female. Caleb flinched, struggling against his ropes. "Who are you? Why did you kidnap us? I'm warning you. My family is the Donovans. If you touch me, they'll hunt you down." "The Donovans?" The voice chuckled. "That's exactly why we went to all this trouble." Another distorted voice, dripping with mockery, chimed in. "We staked you 2 out for days, waiting for the perfect opportunity. You've got the Donovans and the Reeds, 2 of the richest families in the state. We're about to get a very big payday." Caleb's eyes darted around frantically. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not their real son. I'm just adopted. You should have grabbed Ethan Donovan. He's the real heir. He's worth way more than me. I can tell you how to find him." "Nice try," the first voice scoffed. "We did our homework. Ethan just came back into the picture. To them, he's a stranger. You, on the other hand, they've invested in for 16 years. The voice paused, its tone becoming heavier. "And besides, you've got Miss Reed here with you, the sole heir to the Reed fortune. This one score will set us up for life." Just then, a third, more brutal voice cut in. "Boss, I say we make this clean. Once we get the money, we kill them both and dump the bodies in the river. It's too risky letting them go." Caleb's face went chalk white, sweat soaking his shirt. "No, please. We can talk about this. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't kill me. Anything. What if we want a taste of your pretty little girlfriend here?" Caleb didn't hesitate for a single second. "Take her. Do whatever you want with her. Just give her something to knock her out so she won't remember anything. Just please, once you have the money, let me live." He'd barely finished the sentence when the speaker went silent. And then Audrey, who was supposed to be unconscious, lifted her head. She flexed her wrists and, right in front of Caleb's horrified eyes, easily untied the ropes binding her. They had been tied so loosely it was clear they were just for show. Caleb's pupils shrank to pinpricks. The horrifying realization of what was happening dawned on him, but he was powerless, able to do nothing but watch as Audrey walked to the door and opened it. Standing in the doorway were my parents, their faces like stone. And me, Uncle Annie. Caleb's voice was a dry, cracking whisper. His body started to tremble uncontrollably. I let out a cold laugh. "Well, Caleb, you've really outdone yourself this time." "It's not what it looks like," he stammered, his eyes darting wildly to Audrey. "Audrey, listen to me. I was just scared out of my mind. I wasn't thinking straight." Audrey's face was like ice. "I had my doubts after the first attack. You had just been punished, and I happened to get assaulted. You lived in the opposite direction, yet you happened to be on my route home. You were stabbed multiple times, yet every single wound happened to be superficial. Caleb, do you really think I'm that stupid?" "No, that was—" He struggled against the ropes, desperate to explain. I casually cleaned my ear with my pinky finger. Funny enough, I had the same questions. So, I asked Audrey to help me stage this little play. We let Mom and Dad in on it, too. I shook my head. "I can't believe you cracked in less than 3 minutes. For a guy who had the balls to stage a fake stabbing, you're a real coward when things get real." Audrey stared at him, her eyes full of disgust. "I thought maybe, just maybe, I was wrong. Maybe those attackers were real and you were a hero. A part of me hoped you were. I wanted to see what you would do in a real crisis. And what did you do? The second your own life was on the line, you served me up on a platter without a second thought." My father turned his face away in revulsion. "As of this moment, you're no longer my nephew. Go back to where you came from. The Donovan family is done with you." Caleb turned to my mother, tears streaming down his face. "Auntie, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please, for my mother's sake, for what she did for you, give me one more chance. I swear I'll never do anything like this again." My mother just shook her head, the last bit of warmth in her eyes gone. "It's too late. Have we not been good to you? We spent millions on you, sent you to the best schools, set you up with a wonderful young woman from a good family. And in return, you've been a snake. You plotted against my son and played these disgusting, manipulative games. I will not give you another chance to hurt my family." "I actually tried to like you, Caleb," Audrey said, her voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. "But you were so twisted and cruel. If I had actually married you, I'm terrified you would have devoured my family's company until there was nothing left." The light in Caleb's eyes finally died. I pulled his smartphone from my pocket. I'd taken it and used his thumbprint to unlock it while he was unconscious and grinned. I was just looking for evidence of the fake attack, but I found something much more interesting. Caleb roared. "No, don't look at that." I ignored him, holding the phone up for my parents and Audrey to see. "Looks like your most used app is a web novel platform. You've got quite the reading list." On the screen was the unmistakable interface of an app called FIC Zone. The library was filled with titles like, "My Parents Ignored Me for the Adopted Son. Now They're Begging Me to Come Back. My 7 Sisters Loved the Imposter and Killed Me. And My Fiancé Fell for the Adopted Brat, so I Walked Away." "The plots are insane," I said, scrolling through. "It's all stories where the fake heir cries a little and the idiot parents force the real son to donate a kidney, or the protagonist's girlfriend and sisters beat him to a pulp to make the adopted kid smile. It's hilarious. They act like anyone would believe such garbage. You didn't just read this trash." I continued opening a document. "You wrote out a whole playbook on how to frame me. It was all there, plans to fake illnesses for sympathy, instructions on how to self-harm to frame me for assault, and worse." I laughed. "Did you really think real life works like these stupid stories? That Mom and Dad were just mindless drones who would believe the weak, pitiful adopted son over their own flesh and blood?" My father snorted. "Even if we had never found Ethan, the Donovan fortune would have gone to Chloe. It would have never been yours." Audrey saw the rest of the plan on the phone and gasped, her body shaking with rage. "You're going to drug me, frame Ethan for it, and then swoop in to play the hero, ruining his reputation forever. You are more evil than I could have ever imagined. I regret the day I ever met you. What do you know?" Caleb suddenly shrieked, his mind completely snapping. "The first time that bastard met you, You called him Ethan in that breathy little voice of yours, like a in heat. You always looked down on me for being adopted. The second a real heir showed up, you were ready to jump on him. Don't act so high and mighty. Smack. Audrey slapped him hard across the face. You're insane. Reading those stupid stories has poisoned your brain. Blood trickled from the corner of Caleb's mouth, but he started laughing, a wild, unhinged cackle. You forced me to do this. Why did you have to find him? Wasn't I good enough? And don't think I don't know why you named me Caleb. A replacement, a substitute. I hate that I didn't find that bastard and kill him years ago. I shouldn't have listened to those novels and played the victim. I should have just hired a truck to run you all off the road on your way home. You adopted me, but never gave me everything. You owe me. You all deserve to die. Seeing the crazed look in his eyes, any last flicker of pity in my parents' faces vanished. My father turned to the guards. Take him away, he said, his voice cold as ice. I never want to see this creature again. What you do with him is your business. Just make sure I never hear about it. We turned and walked away. Behind us, we heard the guards moving in and Caleb's final desperate screams and curses. I glanced back one last time at the closed door. I didn't feel joy or victory. Just a quiet final sense of peace. Another life poisoned by garbage fiction. As if any of that nonsense could ever happen with sane, rational human beings. Some people, you learn, will not only walk straight into a wall, but will try to tear the wall down so they can keep running in the wrong direction. After Caleb was gone, my parents never mentioned his name again. It was as if he had never existed. When Chloe heard the full story, she spent half an hour screaming into the phone. A wolf we raised for 16 years. Thank God he was an idiot and exposed himself early. Who knows what kind of damage he could have done otherwise. Life moved on. I finished college and slowly began to take over the family business. After I graduated, Audrey and I started dating. After what we'd been through, there was already a foundation of trust and understanding between us. The night before our wedding, Audrey was sitting at her vanity trying on her veil. She turned to me with a playful smile. Ethan, you don't secretly read those trashy web novels, do you? I laughed and shook my head. I've tried. They lower your IQ. It's so bad it's almost funny. Her expression turned serious. I need to be clear about something. I'm not one of those cliché dramatic heroines from stories. I don't have some long-lost childhood sweetheart or a secret protégé I'm funding. I'm not going to hire a hot male assistant or a personal trainer with wandering hands. I don't even like going to the gym, and I hate interns. I walked over and adjusted her veil. Of course, I believe you, I said with a smile. Besides, any real-life CEO who acted as recklessly as those characters would run her company into the ground in a week. She laughed, and the light in her eyes was as soft as moonlight. The wedding was beautiful. My parents and Chloe were beaming. Our life together was quiet but steady. We didn't have a dramatic, sweeping romance. Instead, we built our love day by day through shared routines and mutual respect. A few years later, she gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, and our house became a whole lot louder. The Donovan and Reed enterprises merged, creating a true business empire. Every once in a while, I'll think of Caleb, but it's just a fleeting thought. He was nothing more than a frog in a well, ignorant of the vast sky above him. Watching my kids chase each other across the living room carpet, with Audrey leaning against my shoulder as she reviewed a contract, I lowered my head and kissed the top of her hair. A deep sense of peace washed over me. This is what life was supposed to be. Caleb's epilogue. Damn you, FIC Zone.